Hey folks, how you doing? I've got a great guest here, and it's Jack Ryder. We've just been chatting about he's the Newcastle fan, I'm the Hibernian fan, and we were talking football, but we're now just talking about acting. So here we go. How you doing, Jack?
Very good, mate. Very good. Good to be back.
Good stuff. So, I mean, you were talking about EastEnders there, and you were there for, was it 5 years, eh?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, roughly about 5 years. Yeah.
And so once you left EastEnders, it was like you went to do the Royal, and then after the Royal, you went on to, was it a film called Popcorn?
Oh yeah, Popcorn. God, I haven't thought about that for a long time. Yeah. Yeah, that was an independent film that came about, and that was a lead role for a movie. I'd never done a film before. I'd never worked on a film before, especially never been a lead in a film. There were some lovely actors on that film. It was great. It was a bizarre filming schedule because it was all set inside of a cinema. And the only way they could shoot it was by doing night shoots, basically. So we would start work at like 11:30 at night or something, and we'd finish at like 8 in the morning. And it was a bizarre schedule. You know, you didn't know what day it was by the time you'd finished. And yeah, pretty hectic. But no, that was a good experience. That was a good experience. I'm not sure what I thought of the film at the end of it all, but the experience, like all these things, the actors I met, the crew, the people I worked with, it was it was good fun. It was just that crazy thing of totally flipping your day around where you were working through the night for 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I was going to ask you another wee question after that, which was to do with, obviously, you did a bit of theatre, and obviously you did Popcorn and you did television. But sorry, folks, what did we malfunction there before we kind of got back onto it? So honestly, we were speaking about EastEnders, right? And I mean, you were there for 5 years and you loved it, didn't you? It was, although you were young, it was like a real kind of, well, how could I put it? Shock to you when you were young, to like all the fame and stuff and how you had to handle it. It was kind of
a baptism. It was a baptism by fire. It was thrown in at a very young age, and with a very heavy schedule, with real, big players, Steve McFadden, Ross Kemp, Arthur Windsor, all these people. And I was in that position. I was someone who had never acted before, never stepped foot into that world before. Really? But I think something about that helped me. Something about that kind of the not knowing kind of helped me just kind of do things in the most natural way I felt could be done. So, in terms of the work side of it, I just tried to play Jamie as authentically as I could, and I brought him as close to me as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work. And yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, from what I remember, I mean, Jamie got killed, didn't he?
Yeah, it was one of those Christmas Day deaths. He got hit by a car and then died in hospital on Christmas Day. I never watched it. I couldn't face it, to be honest. I didn't want to be sitting there with my family sobbing into their turkey dinner and kind of watching me peg it on screen. So we didn't watch it, but it was a sad ending for the character. It wasn't my choice to sort of kill him off in that sense. I did want to leave the show. I did want to get some time away and get some of my life back in terms of, just kind of some privacy and I just remember thinking about Thailand a lot. I remember thinking, I just want to go to Thailand for like 3 months and just sit on a beach and just get back to basics, and that was in my mind. It wasn't about leaving and becoming a movie star or anything like that, or kind of, going on to anything else in particular. It was literally the fame side was getting a bit too much and a bit overwhelming, that it wasn't healthy for me at that point. And I thought, this has been going on long enough now, and I need some time away, And the decision was made, and the character left in the way he did, but for me it was a positive thing because there was no option to go back, and that meant that I had to get on with work. And even if that meant creating things for myself, creating opportunities, it just made me kind of really knuckle down and get on with things. And I don't think I might have had that attitude if I knew that the door was still open and there was an opportunity to go back in a year or 2-3 years time. So I've been able to, luckily, you know, work in many different realms of the industry, whether that be, you know, theatre or, you know, radio plays, voiceover for games, you know, radio, you know, pantomimes, you know, movies, whatever it might be. So I've had a lot of experience in different mediums in the industry, and I think that that's one of the things I'm most thankful for.
I think that's fantastic. It's like, I mean, you've done practically just about everything an actor would love to be doing. I mean, obviously you've done TV, you've did theatre. I mean, did quite a bit of theatre as well.
Yeah, I've done a lot of theatre, which is a completely different discipline. You know, that's the thing. You know, EastEnders, I was kind of thrown in, and I just kind of, you know, got on with that at the pace you have to. You know, there's no other way around it. But when it came to the theatre, that was something that I felt very much more tested on. I felt like I had to adopt a lot more focus and a lot more discipline in the craft, and that was massive, you know, and doing Shakespeare and doing these wonderful plays and traveling the country and going to different venues and playing to different audiences and just being live on that stage, like that was something I'd never experienced, and so that was a real turning point in my career.
I mean, you played Romeo from Romeo and Juliet. I mean, how did that feel for you, being on that stage to play one of the most iconic characters in any play? I mean, you must have felt, was it nerve-wracking?
Terrifying.
Really?
Yeah. I'd never read Shakespeare really, let alone played a part like that. So I remember I was doing a play when I got the part of Romeo, and I remember during this play I was already in, there was a wonderful actor I was working with called John Arthur. And he was an older actor, and he had the most fantastic voice. You know, like when you hear James Earl Jones, you just go, oh yeah, here we go. Or Morgan Freeman, like he had one of those voices. And he very sweetly said to me, I think it was like we were up and running, so we were in some venue somewhere up in the country and up north someplace, and he said, you know, I'll help you through this if you want. And I remember, like, before every show and at every interval, I would go into John's dressing room, and we would talk through the whole text. We'd go through every single line of that play, Romeo and Juliet, and he helped me understand the piece so much more than I would have done without his help. And so I went into rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet having learned the whole play and knowing it back to front, you know. And then I found out there were these huge edits, these huge cuts, and that Michael Bogdanov had put in place. So I had to unlearn it and then learn it all again, which was a heavy process to go through. But it was a magnificent part to play, and I made some lifelong friends on that show. And we toured a lot of Wales and a lot of the country. And but it was nerve-wracking. It was really, you know, like the balcony scene and stuff like that. Like there were moments when I was intentionally, in a bizarre way, trying to like trip myself up on lines and things when I got so used to it, you know, the routine of it, and I would be sweating on stage and all that. And it was tricky at times, but it was it's the only kind of real Shakespeare I've done something. I did the Hollow Crown for BBC, which was a televised thing, but that was the only play ever I've done of Shakespeare, which was, it was a good experience.
And you also worked with Nigel Havers, didn't you?
Nigel Havers.
He
was great. He was great. Yeah, he was lovely. He was lovely. He's a real pro. Wonderful to be in his company.
Nice guy.
I can't remember when it was. I was walking on Bond Street. This must have been only about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was walking along Bond Street, and I think Nigel was in some kind of Jag or something, and he wound his window down and went, "Jack, darling boy," you know, all that stuff. And I jumped into the car and we had a chat and stuff, and that was really nice. So no, Nigel's wonderful man. Really enjoyed his company.
Fantastic. Yeah. Did you enjoy? Obviously, you would have enjoyed working with him in that show, though. Single Spies.
Yeah, it was. Single Spies, magnificent play. Yeah, no, it was wonderful. I remember being in Los Angeles and Nigel inviting myself and David Pugh, wonderful theatre producer, up to his house in the Hollywood Hills for dinner one evening, and we went up there, and Timothy Dalton was there, who I just fell in love with immediately. I thought he was wonderful, and Matthew Rhys was there as well. And it was just one of those bizarre evenings where you've got all these people at the table and talking stories and talking about James Bond and talking about Matthew's journey from Wales to Los Angeles, and it was wonderful. And there was a moment when Timothy Dalton, we had to get back to our hotel, and he was like, "I can give you a lift. I live just behind it," sort of vibe. And we were like, "Oh wow!" And there was this moment we pulled up at some traffic lights, and there was a huge billboard of Daniel Craig advertising one of those sort of Amiga watches, and there was Timothy Dalton driving the car and me in the passenger seat, and I just thought, yeah, this is a moment, you know. And so little things like that. I mean, you know, those things pop up, but that was through Nigel, and he's got lots of friends in the industry, so it was lovely to have an evening with those guys.
Fantastic. That would just be an actor's dream, especially a young actor, to be in those guys' company. Especially, I love Timothy Dalton. I think Timothy Dalton's fantastic.
Yeah,
you know, but that would have just been surreal, being in the car with Timothy Dalton and seeing Daniel Craig around. You'd maybe expect him to say something, come out with something, like, I'm a better man.
No, it was just, it's just, there's been a few moments like that where you just sort of meet these kind of icons, really, from the screen or from music or wherever, you know, and it's they're important to take in, 100%. Yeah.
Brilliant. But I mean, apart from acting, as I said, you've practically done just about everything. It's like you've did, like what you mentioned, like your nice voiceover stuff. You've done like it's obviously theatre stuff, television, film. And you also directed as well, haven't you? I mean, you've been doing some direction as well.
Yeah, directing came to me through Calendar Girls, which I was in the West End, and it was directed by a wonderful writer, comic director, Hamish McCall. He wrote and performed in the play What I Wrote, which was the Morecambe and Wise production, which was a fantastically funny play, which I was lucky enough to be in myself. Hamish, he also wrote the first Paddington movie. He's very talented, and he directed Calendar Girls when I was in it, and him and David Pugh must have seen something in me. I don't know, but I obviously had an eye for directing, because they gave me the opportunity on the next production to assist Hamish. And they said, you know, is this something you're interested in? And I said, listen, this sounds great, and I love the team, and I love the piece, and let's give it a whirl, you know. And then I think it was maybe 2 or 3 productions later, I was given the opportunity to you know, direct my own production. And I, you know, was involved in, you know, the kind of casting of that, and who we brought on board. And Casey Ainsworth was one of those actresses who came on board for that show. Oh, yeah. And it was, you know, it was one of the best productions, you know, that was done, and that was very lucky for me, because, you know, obviously started my directing career, and I had a wonderful team of actresses and crew on board, and it all kind of fell into place in that sense. And then that just snowballed, and I gained a lot of confidence with that. And then I directed, you know, the full Monty, which was wonderful, because I got to work with Simon Beaufoy, you know, who obviously wrote the original film. And, you know, with Calendar Girls, I got to work and with Tim Firth, and that relationship continued for us when, you know, I directed the band, the Take That musical, which Tim wrote. So, you know, the relationships I formed over that kind of, I guess you could call it 10, 12 years in that directing capacity was phenomenal. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of graft, but it was a magnificent experience, and it came through, you know, David Pugh and Davith Rogers, two iconic and wonderful producers who believed in me and gave me the opportunity to really, you know, take something like that on. And you know, with the team around me, luckily they were quite celebrated productions, so I'm very fortunate. But yeah, directing is something that's very close to my heart, and something that, you know, I want to continue doing. Very enjoyable.
Fantastic. And it's like, I mean, I suppose it's like when you're in a film or like whatever acting role you're getting, you kind of, even though you've been in lots of things, I mean, hypothetically, it's like, you know, like if an actor's been in a lot of films or a lot of TV stuff, a lot of them still, like, even your famous actors still say, you know, like say your big movie stars still say, you know, they still learn something from each thing that they're in, even though they've been in maybe over 80 or 90 films, you know. It's like they still learn. And, you know, I suppose that'll be the same when you're directing, eh? It's like, you know, it's like in each thing that you're going to be directing, you'll maybe think it's going to be, maybe better than what you did in the last thing, you'll maybe think, I'm going to change this maybe in this one, or maybe,
Yeah.
just.
Well, every story is different,
Mm-hmm.
and every cast is going to be different. You're going to be working with different people and different writers, and there's so much variety in this industry. When you're an actor or a director, the variety is just off the charts. Of every day is different, every experience. You take something from it, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I love it so much. Is that there's never a dull moment in showbiz. There never is, and. But no, I remember working with Roger Haynes. He was a mentor to me, a lovely director, and assisted him for a period of time. And he's an older gentleman, and I remember asking him once, like, you've been directing for so many years and so many productions, and does it get easier? And he looked at me and said, "No, dear, it gets harder." And that hit me. And he was very honest, and we spent a lot of time together. And I agreed with him. Just because you get 5 stars for a certain production you've directed, that doesn't necessarily mean that your next production is going to be 5 stars at all. Do you know what I mean? And the pressure's even more palpable at that point. So it's you've just got to be truthful to yourself and go in, do the best you can, like with any job you do, I guess. But I don't think acting necessarily, or directing in any shape, or writing any kind of art form, I don't think it gets easier. I think it's the opposite, to be honest.
See, going back to like the theatre, like when you were talking about being in the film Monty, how did that feel? I mean, obviously you saw the film. I mean, did you watch the film before you were actually performing in it?
Well, I didn't perform in it. I directed it, so I did know the film. I did know the film very well, because obviously I worked very closely with Simon Beaufoy and the producers on that show, and sort of was part of the development of the script. So yeah, it was a great process of moving the full Monty onto stage, and then casting it, and meeting so many wonderful people, casting the show, and very brave men who had to go out there and strut their stuff. But that's the wonderful thing about the show. It's such a fantastic ending. Obviously, we all know what the ending is. But in terms of the drama and the story and the arc of the play itself is really well crafted. And Simon and the guys did an amazing job creating that. And it was one of those shows where whenever I went to see it, as a director, you go out every so often and watch a show. And with me, I'd normally turn up unannounced, so that I make sure that the boys are doing it properly. But no, that last moment with that number and that choreography and stuff, it really takes the roof off.
I could still hear that.
It's a wonderful thing.
I could still hear that tune in my head,
Yeah, absolutely.
You leave your hat on.
It's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. And we were very true to, especially when I directed it, I was very true to the film in the sense of the score and the soundtrack and the musical. I say musical, not in theatrical, but in terms of the songs that were in the movie. I wanted to incorporate that as much as possible, because there is a nostalgic element to that film. And I think that the audience wanted to feel that again, and so we did incorporate and get the rights to certain songs that were in the movie and put them into the show in certain places and snippets and stuff, and did some good sound design on it. But a great show, really fun to direct. Loved that. Yeah.
It's actually really kind of interesting, Jack. It's the fact when I'm talking to you just now, and it's like you're talking like how a director would talk. So you're very passionate about being a director.
Perhaps I am. It's funny, when I started directing, my brother, who's obviously known me all my life, said to me at the time, I think he said something along the lines of like, "This makes perfect sense." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, everyone thinks you're this actor." And he said, "Yeah, he said, you're good at that." He said, "But when you were a kid," he said, "and you used to watch all the movies, the Back to the Futures and the Ghostbusters and the Superman films and all that," he was like, "You never used to talk about the acting. You used to talk about everything. You used to talk about the scenes and the costumes and the shots." And he said, "You used to talk about all that stuff, And I remember being a kid, and I had a wrestling ring. I had wrestling figures of the WWF toys. And I remember going to my dad's at the weekend. I'd visit my dad every other weekend. And my sister had loads of teddies and glowworms and Sylvanian families. Like, she had tons of toys. But I had these wrestling figures in this wrestling ring. And I remember I used to go into my dad's living room and put the wrestling ring in the middle of the room. And I would get all my sister's toys, literally like 10 or 20 trips up and down the stairs, dragging all of her toys downstairs. And I'd make this massive crowd, and I'd get my dad's lamp and put it over the ring and create this aisle for the figures to walk. So I would, even as a kid, I was creating these kind of worlds and the design of them and the look of them and putting it, you know, on a big stage like that, even when I was like 6, you know. So I've always sort of had that thing, I guess. Except, you know, obviously directed theatre, you do it on a much bigger scale with real people, but it's an extension of, you know, me and my wrestling figures, I think.
That's absolutely fantastic. You know what? It's always good to be creative when you're younger as well. I mean, back in the day, I mean, I used to collect Star Wars figures in the spaceships, and I used to make my own little adventures and stuff.
Yeah,
with them and
it's knocked out of you pretty quickly with education, but if we can try and remain artists as long as we can, I think Picasso said something like that. You know, great artist. The trick is to remain one. You know, and it's beaten out of a lot of us, but thankfully, I've been able to hold on to it for this long. Yeah.
So, if I was to put you on the spot, Jack, right? What do you prefer? Do you prefer, I mean, acting, or would you prefer directing?
It depends on the project, and it depends on the people. You know, I always say it's about the people. You know, I could, you know, act in an ITV drama and not have the wildest of times and find it quite, you know, difficult and not really enjoy the experience. You know, and then I could direct something, you know, some little play on some, you know, in the corner of the country, you know, with 5 actors and, you know, and have the best time ever and the best experience. And it can work the other way. You know, I could do a ITV drama and absolutely meet some incredible creative people and enjoy the part I'm playing. And it's about the people. It's always been about that for me. And what's so lovely is that in this profession, whether you're acting in film, TV, theatre, or, you know, radio, you know, gaming, you do meet great people. There are a lot of really talented, enthusiastic, helpful people in this industry that I've been so fortunate to be in for so many years. So I can't think of a job really that I didn't enjoy on some level. Do you know what I mean? Of course, you have days, you know, you have moments where things get a bit tiring or a bit taxing, but there's not one job I've done that I've thought, I wish I hadn't have done that, you know, because you always have a really great conversation with someone or meet someone or something like that, and that's what the career's been for me so far.
And then obviously you touched upon like your voice work and stuff. I mean, you tell us about the Archers. What was that like for you?
that was while I was doing Romeo and Juliet.
Another tune that's in my head.
Yeah, of course. No, it's funny, I didn't know what the Archers was when I got asked. I remember being with a friend of mine, and I got offered the Archers, and I was like, what's the Archers? And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean you don't know what the Archers is? And I'm like, I don't listen to radio, you know. So yeah, I didn't know what it was at first, and then I quickly knew, you know. And when I would tell people, you know, there was this whole new demographic of fans that came my way when I started that show. But I think I did it for like a year, something like that. And I was doing Romeo and Juliet for half of that period. And I would sort of do Romeo and Juliet, and then like I think it was like some days in the week I would go to Birmingham and record. Really fun, some really funny experiences on that, like with some of the Foley stuff, you know, like the sound effects and things, and I had to do a fight scene in one of the episodes, and it was so funny. I mean, basically it was me and this guy, we had to do this fight, and we were revved up. We were like, well, let's do this thing, you know, let's actually have a bit of a rough and tumble, a bit of a scuff, you know. But there was this kind of, I don't know what you call them, but there was a guy there who added effects in the scene, you know, and you know, if there's chopping or if there's a door that slams or whatever, there's these people who do that because you're concentrating on the text and stuff. So anyway, we're talking about this scene with the director, and there's this guy in the room with us who's literally strapping like with big duct tape, like pillows to himself in the corner, looking very serious. And so we're like, okay. So the director said, look, you guys just go for it. Just see what you can get out of this. So we start the scene and we start actually having this fight. And then I look over and the guy, the duct tape guy, is actually beating himself up in the corner, sort of adding extra punches, extra licks to this scene. And it's those moments you sort of sit there and go, what is my job? What are we doing here? You know, I found that very amusing. So yeah, we were having a fight in one corner and there was a guy beating himself up in the other. And but yeah, the scene worked out pretty well, and there was a lot of punches, a lot of sounds of fighting involved in that. But it was yeah, just funny experiences like that on that show. But yeah, lovely people, and it's such a celebrated sort of, you know, thing in our country. You know, the Archers is like untouchable on that level, and I had no sense of it at all. But when I was doing it, I got a clear view of all that. But very enjoyable. Yeah.
I mean, it's been going on for so many years. It's something like
Yeah.
50 years or something, isn't it? Something 60,
Yeah,
70 years.
Yeah, well, people say, you talk about soap operas and, you know, which is the longest soap. It's like the Archers, it's the longest running soap. You know, it's yeah, centuries old.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I tell you what, though, one of the things I'm going to ask you here is you've got your acting school. Tell us more about that. It's like, is it an online thing or?
It's an online, yeah. So they're called the Jack Ryder sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. I set it up just under a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, COVID hit a lot of, you know, hit our industry in a very impactful way. Theaters closed down, and there was a lot of people out there not knowing what to do with themselves. And, you know, I was one of them partially. I mean, I was writing a book at the time, which was, you know, raising my little girl, obviously. But there was a part of me that, I think there was a part of me that just wanted to reach out to people who wanted to learn more. And specifically, you know, I'd had experiences when I'd taught at various drama schools on and off over the years, where I was sort of surrounded by predominantly sort of like theatre trained actors who were interested in television, who were interested in camera work and film, but didn't know about it, didn't have experience in it, had lack of confidence in that area. And I chatted to my agents and mentioned it as this kind of idea I was having of, you know, maybe I could set this thing up and do something online. And there's something about being one-to-one as well. I don't want to teach a class full of students. I want to connect with someone, and I want to show them and guide them and help them through their process, whether they're a kid who lives in, you know, Belfast, who's never acted in his life and has always wanted to try it, or whether I'm working with someone who's, you know, at the top of their game and, you know, performing at the National and, you know, has done, you know, really great things, but actually has an audition next week and needs help sort of running the lines and wants to get a sort of a different perspective on it. And my agents were really supportive and were like, this is a great idea. And they were like, we can send you, you know, a couple of clients now if they're interested. So I ended up working with a couple of clients from my agency, and that was a really insightful experience and something I felt we, on both sides, we got a lot from. And then it just kind of opened out from there, you know, and I set up the website and it's, you know, like all businesses, it's slowly building. But yeah, I work with a lot of actors who come to me for lots of different reasons. And for me, where the sessions are quite unique is it's a one-on-one experience. It's a chance for them to not have to ask the questions they need answers for in front of a whole room full of people. You know, there's no moment they have to feel sort of insecure about raising their hand. You know, it gives them a platform to really digest and explore the things they want to know about. And you know, there's moments in there that we talk about acting for camera, we talk about stage work, we do scene work, and I assign actors self-tapes to go away, because the industry's changed so much as well. You know, it's like back in the day, you'd get a call from your agent and, you know, you'd have a week to learn a scene, and then you'd go and meet, you know, the creative team and perform the audition live in the room in front of them. And now it's a self-tape. You know, and a lot of actors are like, well, what's a self-tape? They don't even understand the kind of logistics of what that is. And then they've got to, you know, provide this thing and produce it within 48 hours. You know, they've got to learn this script or this scene and send it off within 2 days. And already, you know, their week's planned. You know, they're going to visit their parents, or they've got their job, or whatever it is. And it's lines have got to be learned a lot more faster. And these things have got to be professionally, you know, kind of worked on. And that's where I feel the sessions have been very helpful to a lot of people. And it's something we discover together. And it's hugely enjoyable for me. I've met some really great actors and had some wonderful clients. And it's it's growing all the time, and it's something I get a lot out of. It's very fulfilling, working and guiding actors in a very positive way. Yeah.
And I think especially nowadays in these times, I think there's more actors than there's ever been, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
You
people
know?
are just very passionate about it, you know, and then
Mhm.
and the nature of Netflix and how popular series is now, you know, 10 years
Mhm.
ago, or maybe even 15, you know, series wasn't that much of a thing, you know, movies were the thing. And now it's like, yeah, series, you know, TV drama is just absolutely massive, and storytelling and the sort of character development through series on these shows, you know, it's a phenomenal business. So, you know, a lot of people want to get their teeth stuck into that, you know. And you know, we're talking before about being kids and you having your Star Wars figures and being sort of artists as children, you know, like I find it with so many actors, it's always that thing they want to do, you know. It's that thing that keeps, even I have actors who, you know, were acted when they were younger, then they've had jobs and lives and marriages and families, and they come
Mhm.
back to it in their 50s and go, I still want to do this thing, and I feel like I haven't had the chance. And it's like, well, let's get into it, you know, let's work it out. So no, it's there are a lot of people who want to act out there, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because as you were saying that about someone in their 50s, I'm in my late 40s.
Mm.
I remember actually years and years ago actually going to drama school when I was 15, but I lied about my
Oh
age.
wow. Yeah.
And what had happened was my family, they were like a working class type family. And my dad, he was
Mm.
worked in the docks in Edinburgh, in Leith,
Mm.
Edinburgh.
Mm.
And, you know, I was getting truancy letters from my school because I was actually skipping school and I was actually
Right.
going to drama college. At the time, nothing was like on computers or anything like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had your,
Yeah.
you had your birth lines, it was in a bit of paper, you know. So every day my teacher would say, right, you know, when you're going to be bringing your birth lines, and I'll, I'll bring it tomorrow, I'll bring it next week, and you know, and I just lie. So it was like the first two truancy letters I found posted. I thought, right, okay. And I says, I'll make sure my mum doesn't see these, you know, blah blah blah. So I missed the third truancy letter. My dad found it, and I thought he was going to kill me. Honestly, my dad, he wanted me to work with him as a docker,
Yep.
and you know, it was like I only still had about 4 or 5 months to go at school. And
Mm.
then what actually happened was he says, right, okay. He says, you're going to be working with me. He says, is there something you want to tell me? He says, you wanting to be an actor and stuff? I'm like, what do you mean? Obviously, I must have thought I was, you know. But my dad, he was a right old school type of
Mm-hmm.
guy. He's still alive today. He's 84. And he's, you know, whatever I do now, he supports it fully, you know.
Of course. Good.
But back in the day, he was like, I thought, he says, right, you get back to school, be there for about, I only had 5 months to go before leaving school anyway. And then he says, now
Mm.
you're going to be working with me. So first couple of months, I went back to my school, hated it as I did. And then my dad, he got made redundant.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it was not just him, it was hundreds of guys in the docks.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was
Yeah.
like the Thatcher government. They
Yes,
closed.
that era. Yeah. Yeah.
So my dad lost his job and well, he retired and then he never worked since. And then what did I
Wow.
do then? I think I joined the Royal Mail or something, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
But then I still kept at it. You know, me and a couple of people formed a theatre company and stuff. But
Oh wow.
you know, but that was back then. But this is
Yeah.
now, and it's it's just one of these things. You know, it's
Yeah.
you know, and it's like it's something. I guess when you get to out. Well, I mean, I know you're a wee bit younger than me, but you know,
Mm.
it's passion that will always be with you. Be some people.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think that's so important for, I think so many people in this world don't actually get to do what they're passionate about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because life dictates and you've got to earn money and you've got to pay your rent and your
Mm-hmm.
mortgage and all, you have a family and all these things. And, you know, but I think it's incredibly important for, even if it's not, you know, part-time or even full-time, but if you can tap into that passion that you've got in
Mm-hmm.
some form, I think it's so healthy. I
Yeah.
mean, the wonderful thing about the sessions as well is, you know, I don't take on people, you know, you don't have to be trained, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and people, so a lot of people can't afford drama school,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of people can't commit to something like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you think of a kid living in some far reach of the country who, you know, has to pay how much for going to a drama school, but also rent for living in London, you know, like it's a massive thing. And so I'm hoping the sessions in their own small way can give some guidance and develop actors and help them with their craft. You know, and for me, I think there was just an enlightening moment when I've had quite a few clients through the summer, and I was really seeing big differences with some clients, like to the point where they were sending through self-tapes and stuff. And in the beginning, it was like, you know, this is going to take some time and this needs more work. And okay, we'll talk that through again. And, you know, and the shifts that were made by some of these people was phenomenal. And I remember a moment me and my partner and our baby girl were having lunch with some friends. And I remember that day really feeling like, because the sessions, it wasn't in my mind going to become a big thing. It was something I just wanted to explore at first. And there was that moment when I thought, actually, this is making a difference to people. It really is. So that's when I decided to sort of keep it going and branch out even further. Yeah.
You know, I've got a friend, and she works just like an acting school, but it's just like an acting school, like it's like a night school type thing, Jack.
Yeah.
And she has a kind of like, it's called Edinburgh Acting School, and she has people that come along, not just wanting to act, but she gets like people that maybe work, that are businessmen and stuff, that, you know, they're good at their job, but one thing that they can't do is actually stand up on, say, like a podium and address people and talk to people.
Yeah.
And they're really shy about stuff like that. You know, that's some of the people that she gets as well. You know, I think it's a confidence thing, you know.
There is. I mean, a lot of the applications I get, a lot of people talk about confidence, you know, and it can be anyone. It can be someone who's never tried acting before, but it can also be someone who's, you know, doing a big show in the West End, but is lacking some confidence, you know, in some other art form or whatever. And there's a lot of that, you know, and yeah, again, you know, the sessions, I'll make sure that, you know, I really, you know, make it a massive part of the sessions to help people grow with their confidence, and whether that's acting on stage, whether that's acting in front of the camera. Well, like you say, you know, some people come to me, like, you know, some parents have come to me for their kids, you know, and once a comedy duo came to me, you know, they'd done some stuff and kind of rising on TikTok and wanted to get on the stage and wanted to produce their own show, and, you know, came to me for some sort of advice and started showing me some of their sketches, and we started devising some stuff together. And so, you know, kind of all walks of life in terms of the sessions can help with actors in lots of different ways. Yeah.
So lastly, Jack, I was going to ask you, see, like for your school, I mean, when you're having a session with someone over a particular, like if it's a self-tape or maybe it could be a theatre piece or whatever, how long would that session be? Obviously, I mean, like
the sessions are an hour long. You know, some clients come to me, you know, once a month, you know, or once every 3 weeks. But most of my clients come to me on a weekly basis, because what we've sort of discovered through this process is that developing that kind of momentum in terms of line learning, in terms of the kind of the discipline in that, really does propel them forward massively. So a lot of my clients come to me on a weekly basis. And some clients, it's funny, some clients I've had for a while, you know, we cover all the knowledge-based stuff that they come to me for, you know, and it gets to that point where it's like, right, well, you know, off you go into the real world. You know, good luck, you know. And there's this kind of look in their eye of like, I kind of don't want this to finish. I want to learn more, and I want to, you know. So there's some clients who actually, you know, come to me now once a month, and we work on a self-tape. You know, they provide a scene. We work on it together, we discuss it, we pull it apart, you know, they go away and work on it. And I sometimes provide a scene for them as well. And it kind of goes back and two like that, because normally through the session process, I'll provide the scenes that they do the self-tape for. But when it gets to that stage, it's like, well, what do you want to do? What scene do you want to work on? You know, and I have people come back to me and they have certain passages of text in a play they really like, and it just keeps that flow, you know, and it keeps that memory muscle of the line learning going. And we found that, I found that process is really helpful for people. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you know what, I've been looking forward to this all day, Jack, honestly. And, you know, it's just, this has been fantastic, honestly. And obviously we are acting school, I'll be spreading the word big time, mate. Absolutely,
Oh
honestly.
no, thank you so much.
And
Yeah, no, it's
but apart from that, honestly, it's just been such a fantastic time just chatting to you, mate. Sorry about the wee glitch earlier, like, you know.
that's the nature of Zoom, man. That's it's always going to work like that. But no, we found each other again, so that's all good. But no, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thank you for
Perfect,
having me
mate.
on the
And
show.
listen, anytime you want to chat about anything, just give me a shout and
Yeah,
stuff. And it's, you know, it's just such a pleasure chatting to you because you're such a cool guy, mate. And honestly, it's great that you're doing this acting school and helping people and stuff, you know. And, you know, but you made my day coming on, making the time for this. And
oh, you're
so,
very
listen,
kind,
mate,
Bobby.
honestly, I'll let you get off just now. And
Yep.
as I said, a pleasure. Hopefully, chat to you again sometime.
Awesome, Bobby. Thank you. Good luck with everything. And it's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for your time.
You're a gentleman, mate. Okay, Jack.
Cheers,
See you
mate.
soon,
Take care,
bud.
Bobby.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.